Big John McCarthy.
Let's get it on!
Well, hello to everyone. I am Big John McCarthy, and this is Big John by the Rules. And what we're doing now is trying to cover the things that happen in the sport of mixed martial arts when there is controversy, and there's been a ton. There was the Eddie Hall versus Mariusz Pudzianowski. That was a fight where 28 seconds, all kinds of things happening, and people having a lot of questions about, but did he hit him to the back of the head? Anthony Smith had his retirement fight against Zhang, and you look at the ending of that fight. Was there the possibility that he got hit to the back of the head? Yeah, there is. There was also a moment with the 10-second clackers. We're going to cover that with my man, Dan Mirgalata.
That horn was early.
Big Dan not hearing things correctly. There's a lot of reasons why. There's a lot of things that go on, and I'll explain the mechanics of what you should be looking to see the referee do that kind of clarifies if he heard that or not. Hey, this is Big John McCarthy. I was a referee for 25 years. I was involved with mixed martial arts at the very beginning and helped set up the rules. Now, I teach a command course. You will be able to get in the cage with fighters. There will be other referees that you see on TV all the time. They're teaching you. Now, there is the referee course, which is a 3-day course. There's the judging course, which is a 2-day course. And then there is the fantasy camp, which is your ability to come in, learn everything that you want, but not have the pressure of testing. If you have an interest in MMA, this is the course for you. Go to MMAreferee.com, June 20th through the 22nd, and it will be held at Extreme Couture in Las Vegas. I hope to see you there. So let's get into the back of the head. What is the back of the head? That's the big question here, because we get a lot of people that don't know, and many times our commentators don't know. I am wearing headphones right now, and with these headphones, you see this nice little thing going here, and this is the front of my head, and this is the back of the head. Not in MMA. Okay, but you hear the commentators say it all the time. What is the back of the head for MMA? It starts at what we call the crown of the head, which is, if you have hair, it is that little swirl that a lot of people get, that you can almost feel that little indentation right in the back of your head. And it goes from that point, not forward at all, only down, straight down the back of your head, down your spine, with a 1-inch variance to each side. That's it. That's the part that is considered the back of the head. So all of this on the side behind the ear, all of that is legal. It's all good. So when you take a look at what happened with Zhang, and you look at what he was trying to do, because Jason Herzog was the referee in this situation, and Zhang is kind of off to the side of Anthony Smith, who is turtled up. Anthony's been hit. He's bleeding. And you see Zhang is trying to use elbows and his forearm. He's trying to, and you can see he's actually trying to target the ear, because in the back, that referee has already talked with the fighter and told him, look, as long as you are targeting the ear, you are good. That is a legal area. As long as that is your target, and I can see that's your target, if your opponent moves a little bit or something changes and you hit him to the back of the head, you're going to hear me call out your name and say, watch the back of the head. When I say watch the back of the head, what that is saying to you is, hey, you just hit the back of the head. I need you to either change your weapon or change your target area, because I can't have you come back with the same type of technique. So when you see Anthony Smith covering up and Zhang is taking, and he's actually hitting right at the side of the ear with his forearm, and then there's a little movement, and one shot does come down, and I'm sure that's about the time that Jason Herzog was saying, watch the back of the head. And he's also thinking about, I got to stop this fight. And that's what he did. That's a norm within our sport. And you're not going to get someone taking away a win from Zhang over that situation. He's just trying to finish the fight. You can see what he's trying to target. And as long as he's trying to target that ear, they're going to give him some leeway, because, things in motion, it's like everyone thinks that it's easy to hit these spots. It's not. Things in motion make things difficult, and sometimes those shots go off target a little bit, and we try to hone that fighter back in and get him narrowed down to make sure that that target is the right target and hit with the right type of shot. So the whole thing with Anthony, I'm not saying he didn't get hit to the back of the head. He did, but based upon the situation, the circumstances, and that Jason was in the process of really stopping the fight, that one's going to go, and it's considered, hey, he was targeting the right area. We take a look at Eddie Hall against Mariusz Pudzianowski, and that whole situation. Look at that's called, a new fighter. Again, that's Eddie Hall, who is amped up. He knows I have a chance to end this right now, and I'm only 20 some seconds into it, and he's all over the place. And this is why there's a huge difference between working with, everyone's a professional once they get into the professional ranks, but there's differences in their abilities and their abilities to control. And that's why when many times we're talking about a fighter and we say, look, man, he's hurt him, but he's taking his time. He's being smart. All of those things. That's what experience does for you. That's when you talk about a veteran fighter who can slow things down and pick those areas and target where he really wants to go. Eddie did hit Marius to the back of the head. He hit him to the back of the head multiple times. The referee came in, stopped the fight. I'm not saying that they were legal. They weren't, but they let it go. And so that is what it is. Sometimes, the rules are in that position where they can be broken. My man Josh Thompson is always complaining about, I let him get headbutted. Okay, now, did I let him get headbutted? No. Did I see it? No. And that was my problem, is I was in a position where when they came together, the heads coming together and touching was something that I didn't see. Because there was a punch being thrown at the same time, and I actually thought it was the punch that actually put him on his butt, and then he got right back up. But when I went back and watched the video of it, I could see that it was actually their heads that touched. And so if I had seen it, I would have handled it in a different way. I would have stopped the fight. I would have put them both to their corners. I would have given Josh time to recover from, if he had any kind of damage done by the clash. That's because sometimes the one fighter is hurt and the other fighter's not. Sometimes both are hurt. Sometimes neither one's hurt. So you want to give the one, if he does get any damage based upon what is the foul, you want to give him time. So Josh does have a little bit of a complaint. Very little. Okay. I mean, like this much. But let's get into what happened at the last UFC. It was first Jackie Amori, who was facing Polyana Viana. And at the end of, let's be honest, Jacqueline was all over Polyana in that fight. She was dominating position. She was going for submissions. And near the end of the first round, there was a point where she takes Polyana's back. Now she's on her back looking up, and Dan Mergolata is our referee, and he hears the claps of those clackers. All right, let's talk about those clackers and what they're for. That is a 10-second warning for the referees. It's not for the fighters. It is for the referees. And that's to tell the referee, hey, you've got 10 seconds left in this fight. Those 10 seconds are important because, a lot of people consider things as far as, oh, was that punch thrown after the bell? And well, the bell stops the fight. In actuality, it's the referee that supposedly is supposed to stop the fight. It doesn't always happen. I'm going to be honest. It's many times the fighters on their own hear the horn or hear the bell and they stop their actions, turn around and start going with the referee doing nothing. But if you have an instance where the referee is in position, what they should be doing is always coming and putting their arm through the two fighters. As the two fighters, if they're standing up, you're going to put your arm through the middle and the reason you're putting your arm through the middle is not because it looks cool. What you're doing is if I put my arm, as my arm goes out because I've heard the horn and I'm saying stop or time, my arm goes out. Anything that passes my arm before it gets completely straight is a legal blow. Anything that crosses my arm after it is out there, I know it is an illegal blow. So that's for me to be able to make the right call. In this position, when they're on the ground, obviously Dan's not going to be doing that. He hears that clack. Now, I will tell you, back at UFC 47, Chuck Liddell faced Tito Ortiz for the first time. And there was a moment where Chuck really starts to light Tito up, and they're going, and he starts throwing a lot of shots, and the crowd just exploded as far as the noise level just amplified greatly. And at that time, couldn't hear any clacker and couldn't hear the horn itself. But what happens is I stopped the fight, but I realized I needed to have a communication somehow with that timekeeper in letting them know, yes, I heard that clack, because if I don't hear the clack, I want them to do it again. So I have an idea that the end of the round is coming. So looked and talked to people and came up in MMA, came up with, hey, anytime you hear those clacks, you should see the referee just point in the direction of the timekeeper's table. And that's telling the timekeeper, I heard the clack, I know there's 10 seconds left. And that is a mechanic that we talk about as an official that helps you in, if you don't point at them, those timekeepers should have been instructed and know now, I need to clack again. He didn't hear it. He doesn't know the 10 seconds is left in the fight. And I want to get his attention to give him that idea. So that's a technique that you'll see many times. The other thing that occurs, and this I believe is something that can possibly happen with, Dan, we always talk about it when you're the referee. First thing is, I used to use the phrase of be in the moment, meaning I don't care what's happened at home. I don't care what you're doing, as far as your job. You don't like your job. You're pissed off at the wife. You're pissed off at the girlfriend, whatever it is. It doesn't matter. When you step into that cage, be in the moment and be aware of everything that you need to handle inside there. Be aware of what the clackers of, this arena and this timekeeper is, because they're all different. Dan works all over, and Dan hears all kinds of different noises, in a lot of these different fights. He hears different ones in the bare knuckle boxing that he does. He does, a lot of Muay Thai. He hears something different. He does a ton of MMA. Dan is a fantastic referee, and he made a mistake. And it's unfortunate that he made the mistake, but he made the mistake of not hearing the clacker the right way and believing that it was actually the end of the round. And he came down, you could see him put his hands onto Pollyanna and the arm of Jacqueline, and that stops them because they know, hey, when the referee puts their hands on me, I'm supposed to stop. So it stops and it takes an advantage away from Jacqueline. Did it in the end affect the fight? No. But do we want to see it happen? No. It's something that Dan's going to have to figure out a way. And anytime you have one of these situations, I always say, you know what, you need to go and look and say, okay, how did it happen? What can I do to make it so it doesn't happen again? And then move on from it. Unfortunately for Dan, he had a second one that occurred in the Matt Schnell versus Jimmy Flick fight, where same thing happened. It was the end of the round, and he hears it. And there's something in the sound of whatever it was in Kansas City, Missouri that night with that timekeeper that was a familiar sound for Dan in the stopping of a fight in one of the other venues or promotions that he works with. And he works with a lot. So I can understand it happening, but he's going to have to take the time to figure out, all right, I had that mistake. I can't have this happen again anymore. And so move on from it. A lot of people are going to give him crap. Did it truly affect either fight? I actually thought it could have affected the Matt Schnell fight more, based upon he was really looking towards setting in the choke, where I'm not saying he was going to get it against Jimmy Flick, but Jacqueline she had the back. She was looking for the choke. I'm not too sure she would have gotten it, but we never want to make these mistakes. It is a mistake. He's human. Give him some slack. There's nothing, any of us do that is perfect. I'm sure that Dan was not happy with himself that night. He's taken a lot of flack from a lot of people saying, oh my God, he can't even count, know what a sound is. It's a lot different when you're the one standing in there than when you're sitting there watching on TV. But I hope that answers these questions for you. From now on, when we have something happen in the fights that is something with the rules, we're going to go with Big John by the rules. I'm going to come in and answer it for you. I hope you enjoyed this section, and I will see you.